right, are we ready to get started? We're streaming live. I'll go ahead and start us off. Greetings, everyone. I just want to thank you so much for joining us this evening for our series on Black-owned business, our Black-owned businesses virtual series, supporting our community during these unprecedented times. I would like to hand this over first to my soror, Erica Moore, who is the second vice president for the St. Louis Metropolitan Alumnae Chapter. Soror Moore.
Thank you, soror Norfolk. Good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing well and staying warm on this chilly day. And that I'm so excited to have you all with us on behalf of our president in her absence, soror Janice Baker. I would like to welcome you all to our final session of our Black-owned businesses, supporting and sustaining our communities during these unprecedented times. It's been a great series thus far, and we are closing it out with two wonderful, amazing women that are going to give you some great knowledge, and I am so excited to have them with us. So thank you all so much for giving them your time to share your knowledge with our community. The St. Louis Metropolitan Alumnae Chapter is proud of the work that we do around economic development to empower our communities, and we want to continue this throughout the year. We'll have to make sure you look for us in the future, because I'm sure soror Norfolk has some other things up her sleeve ready to present and bring to you to increase your knowledge and empower you economically. So thank you again, soror Norfolk, for your work over this series. It's been phenomenal. Welcome to all who are watching. Sit back and listen in to some great information. Thank you to our guest speakers today, and enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, soror Moore. I'm really excited. I'm excited and I'm sad because it's our last part of this series. But as soror Moore said, we have so much more to come this sorority year, and so many more phenomenal business owners to bring together and wonderful community members. It's been a pleasure, and tonight is going to be a real treat. I just love to always share with everyone the purpose of this series, which is to bring Black business owners in our community to a platform where they can offer guidance and support to other Black-owned businesses, extend opportunities for collaboration, and bring vital resources and information to our community at large. So we are trying to make sure that we make a positive impact at all levels of our community. We also plan to share any information that you all would like about these businesses afterwards, so that you can continue to connect with them. And so we're super excited to have two wonderful presenters today. We have Michelle Braddock-Womack, who we will be introducing first, and then we also have Christina Reynolds, who will join us for the second half. I would like to go ahead and introduce Michelle by sharing a little bit more about her. She's really phenomenal and has been in this field for quite some time and made an impact on so many lives. Michelle Braddock-Womack owns Triad Realty Group, LLC, and Triad Realty Group has been in the real estate business services for 14 years. So it's founded by Michelle, and she is an experienced real estate expert with 28 years in the field. Triad Realty Group is a full and fee-for-service agency that works with buyers, sellers, and investors in real estate transactions spanning all of the price ranges and all property types. As a broker, Michelle Womack is not only educated in the field of real estate, but she also is educated in the field of business, holding a BA, an MBA, and being certified as a business and life coach. She also has 30 plus hours in mental health, and she is currently working on her dissertation for a PhD in human behavior. Her company serves a wide variety of areas, including Bridgeton, Chesterfield, Florissant, Hazelwood, O'Fallon, St. Charles, St. Louis, just across the gamut. So she literally is everywhere. The longevity of her business and the confidence comes from their real estate services that they've offered to many buyers and sellers, and the recommendations that come from them as a result. And that means that they have reached business as well as referrals, which keeps them productive and successful. Michelle you have an amazing, amazing background and wealth of knowledge. And I just want to say thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Soror, for having me on the platform. I really appreciate the opportunity to engage with the audience and to make them aware that home ownership is a great opportunity for most people. So I want to share some things today based upon your questions that you have and enlighten them.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited. Yeah, we have a lot of good stuff we're going to get into, and your business is so multifaceted that we get to touch on more than we would with a lot of people. So I'm actually super excited to gain some knowledge myself from what you have to share today. So I will go ahead and get started with our first question, which is that I'd like to know a little more about what led you to start Triad Realty Group. Or is it Triad or Triad?
Triad.
Triad Realty.
That's okay. Well, that name kind of comes from being, when I first got started in the business, I was licensed in other areas. And then when the quote unquote pandemic took place in about 2006, we kind of downsized a little bit. So I kept the name and we're in the process right now of growing some more. But I started basically for love of property. Just growing up, I used to always love going to see houses and smell houses and just see the different structure and all that kind of stuff. And so I fell in love with real estate really early. And then I thought, hey, this will be a great opportunity for me to learn more. Upon going to college, I still kind of studied a little bit of it. And then after college, studied a little bit of it, then decided to go into the business as an investor. I failed tremendously, lost a lot of money. And, I decided, look, I can't do this blinded. I need to learn. And so therefore, I went and got my license as a realtor. You don't necessarily have to have a license to be an investor, but it served me well because I learned a little bit more about the business that I wanted to pursue. So I always tell people, if you want to do something, get educated first, especially when it costs money, because real estate, it's a wonderful life, but you can literally go broke, which I did when I first started.
That's powerful, though. I mean, that's powerful for business owners in general. I mean, that's the message that, oftentimes they see, our community members see people that are really successful, and they don't realize that path to success, that journey, also included some failures and some growth opportunities. And so that's really a wealth of knowledge right there, is just, know that sometimes we are going to fail, or we're going to make some mistakes. We learn from them, and then we kind of take a step back and do what we need to do. And get that education first. I think that's important with small businesses. A lot of times people want to just start off, and they don't really want to learn about it. It's just that I want to do it. It's like you can have the passion, but you got to have the knowledge. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have another question for you. Before we get into all the more detailed questions, I really wanted to ask this kind of more of a basic question that I think is really important. And that is that I'd love to know what are some common mistakes that people make when they're determining, whether to purchase real estate, whether it's a home or business property. So what are some of those mistakes, and how can or should they avoid those?
Well, first off, I always advise people, this buying a house, whether it's for business, investment, or to live in, it's a serious business, and you have to be prepared mentally, because buying a home, getting married, those are some stressful things. And so if you're not prepared mentally, what you're going to find out is going to drain you in many areas. And so the first thing that I always recommend is for people to sit down and analyze their finances, because you don't know what you can afford until you know how much you make. And just because you make $70,000 a year, that's not what you bring home. And so a lot of people like to look at it from that perspective. And I always tell them, be mindful of what you currently have going out, things that you enjoy doing. You don't want to be house rich and poor. And so the first thing that you need to know is what you have going out and what you have coming in. And when lenders look at your income, they look at debt to income, DTI. And typically they want to keep you up under 30% as far as your living expenses. So you got to make sure that you don't have a lot of credit debt, which most people do. I mean, believe it or not, credit debt is a serious thing, which people don't understand or recognize or appreciate until they're getting ready to buy something of significant value. So that's the first thing I let them know. Make sure you know where you are financially, what you can afford. If you're currently paying $1,000 for rent, you may, when you get ready to buy a house, you're going to have other expenses added to that. It's just not rent. You're going to have utilities added to that, just like you do with rent. In some cases, you're going to have property taxes, and you're just going to have the association of owning a home. Things break when you get in a home. And if you don't have the finances to take care of them immediately, then you're going to be, again, house rich and poor. So that's one thing that I always ask them to do. Another thing that I really want to stress, people listen to too many people. And, you know, when I say too many people, they're asking their cousin, their auntie, their best friend, you know, going into different groups on Facebook, asking all these questions. And everybody's situation is different. What works for one may not work for you. And so it's important to sit down with a professional, a licensed agent, where you can see what is feasible financially for you, and then we can take it from there. I have a ton of them. You want me to share some more different things?
No, I think that's great. I mean, yeah, you're welcome to. I know we have quite a bit we're going to cover, but I think I think anything you have to share is really valuable. And so we welcome that. We want our community members to be as knowledgeable as possible. And I think you brought up a great point that I didn't think about, is how people are just going any and everywhere and making decisions that really are putting them in a bad position. And so if there's something else you have to share, please do.
Yeah, and I stated that because, you know, that's a lot of times when people come to agents, and that's the first thing too, before you go out looking for a house, as I mentioned, get pre-qualified. Pre-qualified basically lets a seller know what you can afford. As I mentioned, you can make $70,000 a year and you may only be able to afford, you know, $150,000 house. Whereas when you go get pre-qualified for a home first, then you know you're not wasting your time out here driving around looking at houses, and you're not wasting a lender or a realtor's time. And so time is money and money is time, and you want to make sure that you're not wasting that. So get pre-approved first, know what you can afford, then hire a licensed realtor. Now, here it is when I say hire. People get, oh, how much do I have to pay them? You know, different agencies work different. Within our agency, or typically you don't pay a realtor for the most part, but you do pay for services. Typically the seller pays the realtor, you don't. But there are some fees associated with it because right now with the financial struggle to be in business, a lot of agencies, especially smaller ones, you'll see a lot of them popping up now. They got to stay in business because a lot of businesses are closing now. So there are fees attached, but it may not be what the astronomical cost that you'll probably see that you will have to come up with. So that's the first thing. Don't get afraid that you have to hire a realtor. It's very advisable that you do. Now, I want to distinguish, there's a difference between a realtor, an agent, real estate agent. We have to be clear on that because we are licensed by the state we operate in. And I cannot stress that enough, because when you work with an agent, we are bound by law. We study to become this, okay? You got to be educated to be that. So if you're an agent, a lot of times they're not licensed, and you're dealing with someone, if law happens to come into the process where you have to sue a seller or sue anybody, if they're not licensed, they're not really per se liable because they don't have that license and education behind them. And so when you're working with people, I cannot stress enough, make sure that they're educated in what they're doing, the locale that you're looking into. There are so many things that are your responsibility too as a future buyer, homeowner, that you need to understand as well. Also advise people, know your credit score going in. Working with people, sometimes they, you know, I ask them, what is your credit score? They have no idea. The last time they had their credit pulled was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And if you don't know what your credit score is, again, that's a financial liability to you, because you could be paying some astronomical rates, which, you know, and wasting time as well. And so those things are very important and key when deciding to buy a home.
That's powerful and so helpful. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate you explaining the difference between a realtor and an agent, and people don't know. They just put it all together, and so that's kind of one of those red flags. And making sure that we are selecting someone who is educated and trained and guided by the law, because there are all of these liabilities that come with purchasing a home too, and and dealing with that process. And we want someone who understands it fully, and somebody who's going to make sure that we avoid some bad situations that we're not even aware of. That's why we're working with an expert. I do want to ask you, because you're a broker, I just briefly, if you could share the difference between a broker and a realtor.
Okay, real simple. A broker is the owner of the agency. The agent works for the broker. The broker has all the financial liability. And then also, if there's an issue with an agent, it falls on the broker. And that's why I'm very particular about who I hire to work with me. Because when you're an agent, you're pretty much a business owner. That's your business, your portfolio of business. And overall, it's the broker's business because you work with the broker or for the broker, if you're thinking of from a job perspective. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I wanted to get into a few more things. I guess you kind of already talked about some of the red flags that we need to look for. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that before we dive into other questions, but let me know.
Well, a red flag, another thing too, just thinking about what you need to bring. No money saved. People are hyped up on you can buy with no money. From an investment perspective, I'm an investor. I'm gonna tell you, you need money to make money. From a buyer's perspective, there's so many hidden costs that people don't pay attention to, like closing costs, inspection costs, insurance, earnest money. Those things are very important. So you can't come into the process thinking that you're going to come into it with little or no money. Now, I have a lender that I work with, and when we get the contract written up, if you have a skilled and qualified agent, I have sometimes people that get money back at closing, but that's not everybody's situation. Everything don't work for everybody. So that is, it's not rare, but if the contract is stated and specifically addressing your needs because you're the buyer, when an agent works with a client, a real estate agent works with a client, we have a fiduciary responsibility. And basically what that means is that we work for you. And so our goal is to make certain that anything that needs to be done, we take care of that. The seller's agent works for them.
Got it. No, that's helpful. And it's really important information that we don't just get on a regular basis, which is why we're doing this. So I thank you for that time. And we actually got a couple of questions from Facebook Live that I wanted to ask you before I continue with our questions. The questions are, should you still have a realtor or just work directly with the builder? Does a pre-qualification hit your credit? And best tips for a first-time home buyer. But I think you might have given some best tips already, but yeah.
Well, let's talk about the builder. The builder represents themselves. And I recommend you get your own agent because the builder is not looking out for you. I mean, they want the money for them to build a home. So if you have an agent, if you hire a real estate agent, they work for you. So keep that in mind, because I know when I initially was in the process of building my home, I was just really new to the game. And there were so many things that I missed out on that the builder didn't tell me. I was representing myself as my own agent. And so that's why I know personally. And then even from people after that don't, they wait, they say, well, I'm going to just work with the builder. Then they come ask me questions after they built their home. So many issues, so many entanglements. And the process of law, gets into the play, because builders don't, if they're not, you got to do your due diligence as well. Look up that builder. What kind of lawsuits have they had? Are there issues with the house that they're building? I mean, there are so many things that you need to be aware of that's a scary process to do it alone. As far as, what was the other question?
Yes, I know I read a lot of them at one time.
I'm 51, excuse me. So,
no, you're good.
I forget sometimes.
So the second question was, does a pre-qualification hit your credit?
A pre-qualification is a pre-approval and it will hit your credit, because basically what the lender is doing is seeing if you're worth pursuing to get a house. They want to make sure your credit is good. And typically it's about 30 to 90 days that you have the opportunity to search for a mortgage, and where it won't ding your credit again. So it's good to shop around. There's so many programs out there like NACA that are available for first-time home buyers. It's a lengthy process. It can take forever, and a lot of people get impatient and quit. If you're not in a hurry to buy a house, it's a great resource and process. But again, still hire your own realtor, because they have realtors that work with them. I always say go work with someone that you're comfortable and confident in working with. That answer the question?
I think so. I mean, that sounds wonderful. And I think that also answers the question, that's tips for first-time home buyers. You're bringing up information like NACA and, still hiring your own agent. And then also, recognizing that this credit question, I mean, that's something that a lot of people aren't sure of, and they don't realize that once I do that, yes, it has hit my credit, but I have this 30 to 90-day period to be able to shop around without there being another ding on it. And so I need to take advantage of that. I think you offered, early on some tips that are great for first-time home buyers. Do you feel like there's anything else you want to share to answer that question?
In reference to the dinging of the credit, which means basically your lower score will fall. Creditors look at three things, or lenders look at three things. They look at Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, and they go with your mid score. Now, I remember back in the day, I used to get people homes with 500 credit score. That's gone. Right now, FHA, they're really picky right now. It's about 640. Before it was 580. The good thing about the loan FHA, I recommend that for first-time home buyers. I always try to educate my buyers on whatever is available for them, because that's the first thing that we do anyway. We educate you about the home buying process before we even take you out. Right now, we're doing a lot of Zooms with, trying to educate people and texting and things of that nature. But the loan, because there's conventional, there's a USDA loan, there's a VA loan, there's a FHA loan, and there's so many different loan programs that are out there. And really, again, that's why I say stop talking to everybody and anybody. You have to work with somebody to see what's best for you. Because within that loan, the first time home buyer program, there are so many different tactics that are included in it. Like VA, I mean, veterans, they can get in the house for little to nothing. And that's because they served our country, and they certainly deserve that. So it's important to pay attention to those aspects. Something else that I wanted to mention is that really, when you're talking about purchasing a house, know what type of house you want too. Because a lot of times people, I just want a house. Do you want a 2-story? Do you want a ranch? Do you want a basement? Do you want, a condo? There are many different types of houses. If you're working with couples, this is another thing too. I don't take anybody out unless you bring your spouse. And the reason why I don't do that is because I failed in the past of doing that when I first started. I took the wife out, and that husband didn't like it. So it's best to bring whoever is on that loan, whoever is going to be paying that mortgage, bring them with you.
I love that. We have we have a couple more questions here, and then I still do I'm going to try to answer, if we can answer these really quickly, just because you offer such a wealth of knowledge outside of solely the home buying experience, that I want to make sure we get some of those things too. But I wanted to, and if we go a little bit over, then, that's fine as well, because I want to make sure we answer the questions. But there are two things. Can you speak to the importance of debt ratio in conjunction with the credit score? And then what's required to avoid PMI payments?
Well, you can't literally, if you get an FHA loan, you're going to have PMI. The only way to kind of quote unquote avoid it in some aspects, and not necessarily avoid, is with a conventional loan. Now, I'm not a lender, so I'm not professing to be there, but as I mentioned, I do work with someone who's qualified in that. And when customers come to me, I do a total analysis financial, just to make sure that I'm not wasting my lender's time to look at that aspect. But if you get an FHA loan, you're going to have PMI. In regards to, again,
the debt ratio in conjunction with the credit score.
Now, your DTI has a lot to do with your credit score, because if you're over in debt, your credit score is going to be low. and it's going to drop. And as I mentioned, creditors look at the mid score. So if you have a 600, 650, 700, they're going to look at that mid score, which is the 650, and qualify you based upon that. If your debt is out of whack, meaning you owe more than you make, then that's going to affect your credit score.
Thank you. No, that's perfect. I just want to mention this so that we can talk about it later, but someone was saying they'd love to see a class on investing for dummies. So as we are, you know, the Economic Development Committee is asking people to share with us different ideas. Just wanted to let you know that's something that came up. So keep that in the back of your mind.
Okay.
If you would. And as a sorer, you know, we definitely are going to be calling on our sorors, of course. So we appreciate you and your expertise. I do want to ask some other questions just because I know that there are a lot of different nuances, especially during this time, and people really need to be making some sound decisions, and they just don't know. So during this unprecedented season, some decisions people are making is, you know, of course, buying a new home or selling their home. Do you have advice for them specifically as it relates, you know, to being in the midst of COVID-19? So like, what's the landscape like? Is this a good time? Should they wait? Are there considerations that are different than in normal times?
Well, again, I go back to everybody's situation is different. However, if you are a seller, it's a seller's market right now. Right now, we have bidding wars going on. I had one house that they had like 10 contracts on, and of course, it went to the highest bidder. It was $50,000 over the asking price. So for buyers, I say, I'm prepared to spend some money. For sellers, I say, if you're ready to sell, right now is a great time. And so deciding if the time is right for you, if you've been deciding and wanting to move, I say, go for it. If you want to buy and there's, you literally want to get onto these interest rates right now because they're really low, I say, jump on it, but you got to pay to play, basically. You're not going to, back in the day, you have a choice of houses. Houses are limited on the market right now. They're not staying long because people are buying them. You know, I'm like, where are these people? They're talking about 18 million people laid off or whatever, somebody buying a house because we've been busy. And so that's a great thing because people are still able to buy a home. But again, go back and look. If your job is stable, if you're financially stable, you know, it could be a good time for you to buy. If you're uncertain about your finances in the next year to 2 years, I would say personally, again, it's a personal decision, but it may not be a great time for you right now.
No, that's very helpful. And that's something a couple of my girlfriends and I were talking about. One friend, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about refinancing too, but I have a friend who refinanced and their house is just worth so much more than they ever even imagined. But it was like, well, what people are doing is they're selling their homes, but then they can't find anywhere to live. And so it's really about making sure you have a plan of action because your house is going to sell just like that.
If it's ready to sell, because when I'm working with sellers, I try to make sure their house is ready to sell. I go through and do a total assessment of repairs that could possibly hinder it. I'm not an inspector, so sometimes I recommend that they hire an inspector, the seller, if they can financially afford it, because they'll come in and look to see if you need a new roof, if some, you know, some hindrance with electricity, the air conditioning, and all that kind of stuff. But you know, it's so important to put those things in perspective because just like when you're buying, it costs to sell too, because you got to pay the realtor their commission. You're going to have to pay the closing, the title company to close on your home. It's not that much for a seller in that perspective, the closing costs, but it's still a cost that you may never know that you had.
No, that's powerful information. Thank you. This is like so much valuable information that I know when we were buying our home, you know, we just didn't have. I mean, thankfully we made a good decision, but this is something I know a lot of people need. You
can also get a gift too. You can get gift money to buy a house. We have programs within different municipalities where you can go and get gift money. Like I said, my lender, he hooks it up for people. When they come to us, we work it in. He tell me what to do. I put it in a contract, negotiate it. And I call myself the master negotiator because what I put on there, I'm going to make sure I get for you because I work for you, okay? So I'm going to make sure I get that. Yes, ma'am. Because, you know, real talk, We in the business to make money. I don't make no money if I don't close no deal. And I'm just being honest. I
Mhm.
love helping people too. But at the end of the day, I need to get a check. Okay.
So
So, because
you're
I'm
trying
in
to
business.
eat and you got to pay your mortgage. So
You hear me? Okay. So yes, but it's so important that you can get gift money from a family member. You can also take money out of your 401k. You know, again, look at your situation and analyze it before you just jump and do it. But a 401k, you borrowing from yourself. Why go borrow from somebody else or a bank or whatever? And you know, when you got that money sitting in your 401k.
I love it. And I love that you look at each individual person's situation and provide education before you jump in. You're not just about the money. Like, yes, that's the end goal is you want to check, but you don't want it at the detriment of someone else, which everyone we've had the opportunity to connect with through this series has just operated with such integrity.
Mhm.
And so when people hear from persons like yourself, they realize, you know, what they need to be looking for. You need someone who has a heart for the community that they're serving. So I thank you for that.
Right. I've been burned. I've been burned. So I know what it feels like to be burned, and I don't want nobody else in that situation. When I first started buying a house when I was younger, had the worst realtor, you know, that I could ever imagine. They just sent me out there like a shark. And I said, you know what, once I start my business, I will never do anybody like that because I do believe in karma. And I do believe it come back to bite. So in referrals, you do good business, you get referrals.
That's right. I love it. And yeah, you're someone who's operating with integrity. That's great. And if not, you know, I know we had experience as well. And there's some people just want you to buy a house because they want to make a sale. They don't care if you get into a house you love. They just want you to get a house. And I remember someone trying to convince my husband to convince me to buy a house in this community. He's like, I can't tell her what to do. She's not going to change her mind. So yeah, I love that you operate with integrity. I wanted to ask about 3 more questions of you. There have been a lot of people who are considering refinancing their homes. As you mentioned, rates are low. What are your recommendations? Any cautions about that?
Well, again, I'm not a lender, but based upon what...
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
You can.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Nichelle. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Right now, as I mentioned, I'm not a lender, but based upon and speaking with my lender, it's a great time to refi. But I still take it back to the situation. Look at your situation because everybody's situation is different. It's going to cost you money to refi. Look at the total synopsis of your portfolio in your house to see if you have money to take out. You know, if you have money to take out, as you mentioned, Monique, the market, you know, when somebody refied or whatnot, the market is right now bearing refi. Rates are really low right now, but you have to look at your situation. And if you refi, what you gonna do with that money? So are you gonna pay some bills off? Is it worth somewhat increasing your mortgage payment? Because when you refi, sometimes your mortgage payment increase, sometimes it decrease. It just depends on where you are in your state. And everybody's mortgage is different. There's so many different types of scenarios with that. I can't hear Monique.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, sorry. You know how technology is. It cut me out. So sorry for that. But I did hear you, and that was powerful information that you shared. So thank you. I love that. And I think that it's important because it is easy. You know, we've heard people say, just like you say, you talk to your cousins, your friends, and they're like, yeah, refinancing. You're like, no, wait, talk to somebody and make sure you're making the best decision for you. This next question kind of ties into that it's at least a part of it. And so there are people doing a lot of rehabbing. You know, I've heard that is big business during COVID-19. I know we have some plans for that. But there's so many options out there as to how to finance these projects. And so there, you know, when you look up the information, some of it's obviously your own personal funds, but then there's options that include refinancing, you know, taking out a loan, borrowing from home equity, all of that. And so as an expert, I really wanted to hear your thoughts about that.
You know, right now, what I'm seeing a lot of people doing is really, you know, tapping into their HELOCs. HELOC right now, similar to mortgages, again, you got to qualify for them. And so in that instance, people are using their own funds. Right now, rehabbing is 54% of the market, and people are getting pools right now is 58% total people trying to rehab their houses because people are at home more. But again, you know, I want to stress, look at your financial situation. If you got the cash laying around, of course, I'm going to say real estate is always a sound investment that if you put that money back into your house. I also want to stress, look where you live because you don't want to overdo your house and other houses in the area are not selling for what you're putting into your house because that right there can make you upside down when you try to sell. And the last thing that you want to do is be upside down when you're trying to sell because you're not going to get that money back that you put into the house.
That's really helpful. You know, as I'm thinking about that, like, so I'm thinking, so people are pulling from home, their equity in their home. Is that something you think is good? Okay. It depends on their situation, or, you know, and then also as far as like refinancing, and then I guess that's still pulling from the equity. So refinancing, now they have more money available because maybe their home's worth more. Are those safe decisions to make?
You know, the safety to me, pardon me, if you got money, pay your debt off. You know, that's what I would suggest first and foremost before you do anything else, because it will give you more leverage. And that's what you want. You know, real estate provides leverage. Cash is king, but credit is leverage. And you want to keep your credit in a place where it does not financially commit suicide, basically. And so when you are in the process of rehabbing your home, if it's an update, and like I said, pay attention to your market area. And we do free comps, which basically we'll do a home assessment of your area to see if you put another $10,000 in your house or you going over and beyond. Because real estate has really fluctuated over the years. As I mentioned right now, it's pretty good, but not all areas are pretty good. And that's just being truthful. In the metropolitan area, there are different price ranges for houses in different areas. You can just move across, go down the highway, and it's $100,000 difference. And so pay attention to that. Yeah, I mean, location is so important. So when you're looking at that, look at what you owe before you put it into your house. But then, you know, if you're going to stay there a long time, it's a great thing. If you're updating your kitchen, which is a plus anytime, because when people are working with me, they want hardwood floors, updated kitchen, they want a finished basement, and they want a nice bathroom that when they get home from work, they can go soak in the tub. Okay. So, you know, those are the places that if I'm going to spend my money, I would do that. You know, depending on the area, I wouldn't necessarily go put a pool in my backyard because every area won't financially hold a pool, you know, when you're trying to refi. So kitchen, bathroom, basement, and I would literally almost make the basement the last one. I would do kitchen and bathrooms first.
And then floors throughout the house, though, the wood floors.
Yeah, people love hardwood floors. If you got that nasty carpet that's been in there a long time, especially if you live in an older home. And I'm just being real because sometimes, you know, I have allergies. So carpet, you know, I'm like, get it up out of here. I need hardwood floors. But, you know, people want that because it's beautiful and it's easy. And then a lot of times there are different supplements. If you don't already have hardwood floors, there's some great vinyl floors that are high end that you can put down to bring the value up in your home. Change your front door, you know, manicure outside, because I have buyers, if they're driving by your house and it's ugly outside, I don't care what you did inside, they don't want to come in. They're like, you know, first impressions are lasting impressions. It's ugly outside, I don't want to go in. So they told me that. Yes. So put some landscaping out there, you know, fix the outside up, put some pretty nice violets out there, you know, and some roses, whatever you need to do.
Can I ask a quick question to follow up on that very thing? So what about so there's some things that are just not visible, like for instance, a new air conditioner, a new furnace, a new water heater in the last 3-4 years. So is that like in your write-up to help the value of your home? Because you just don't see that when you're driving by or looking.
Right, you do see it in the air conditioner. You do see it. You can look at it because we go to some houses where you can look at them and tell they're totally dated. Now, energy efficient is what's important, because energy, if you invest in energy, I mean, you're saving money from right there, a total perspective of the house. People like smart homes too, you know, Ring doorbells, all that kind of stuff. They love smart homes. So if those things are added to your home, of course, the value is going to increase depending on the area that it's in. But if you know your furnace is bad, And, and I'm not an HVAC person, but typically 8 to 10 years. And I recommend getting your stuff serviced every year anyway, so you'll know the lifeline of it. But if you know your furnace is 8 to 10 years old, you might be in for an upgrade. Your air conditioning, get it serviced every year, because then that will make you aware when you decide to sell what needs to be done, because those are some costly items. The roof, you can see people's roof driving down the street. If you know you've been patching that roof up over the years, go ahead and get that roof fixed. That's an added value to your home. And again, as a buyer, when I'm working with my buyers, we're going to do a building inspection. And I can't make them do anything, but I suggest. And I'm like, it's going to save you some money to know what's going on with the house. Because as you mentioned, unforeseen things, you can go into a haunted house and it can be a whole lot of stuff wrong within there that you can't see with the naked eye. And that's why it's important to get an inspector that you pay a cost that we don't typically add to the home buying process, that can help save you some money in the long run.
That's helpful. Thank you. And yeah, you mentioned the roof piece, and we just had ours done. And I'm going to ask, when we bring Christina on in a minute, that's one of the questions. I have a question for her that I think will be really helpful. So I have one more question from Facebook that just came in, and then I'm going to ask you another question that actually came up twice from two different people I spoke with this week, and it's in a little bit of a different direction. But since it came up a couple of times, I wanted to make sure I asked you as an expert. But this Facebook question asks, will it hurt to get rid of my tub for a shower only?
Oh, don't do that. Especially in a master bedroom. Yeah, I'm just speaking from a woman perspective. Now, men, they don't typically care, but women, people like an updated bathroom. Don't get rid of your tub. If it's in another room, then, that may be okay, in a basement or something like that. But people like bathrooms because people have kids and people want those additional amenities to take care of, but never in your master bedroom. I would never recommend anybody doing that. Hall bathroom, a bathtub is essential. The basement, maybe not so much, but yes, keep your bathtub.
That's helpful, because I'm seeing all these high end. Because I love homes too. Like, I can drive by homes and visit homes. I love them. And so I watch all the shows, and you see these high end, big, huge, 6-person showers and all the jets and everything. And so I would have thought, yeah, that's fine, get rid of it. So that's why you talk to an expert. Thank you.
I mean, like I said, if it's in your master bedroom, no. But another bathroom or whatever, if you have multiple bathrooms, that may be helpful if you want to add a high energy efficient with all those little jets coming out and stuff, but never in a master bathroom. I wouldn't personally recommend it. Of course, I can't tell clients what to do, but it does take away, kind of somewhat devalue your home.
Thank you. No, that's great. That's really helpful. And I have one more question for you before we have our other wonderful guests come in. But this is something that came up a few times. So many people are considering purchasing a property, like for their nonprofit. Some people for their business, but I've heard a lot about nonprofits. And they've been wanting to do that even before the pandemic. But there are more, people now are getting into different businesses that maybe they're kind of rolling on. And so during the pandemic, they're kind of saying, let me go ahead and step out and start that nonprofit. But I know I need this building for the type of work that I want to do. So we know there's different options out there. Like, I know sometimes you can purchase from the city or something for a low price, or there's two or three pay loans for, doing the work, the rehab, all of that. And I don't know what the best approach is, but I know people often are asking about things like, if instead of a loan even, are there grants and programs to assist in going this route so that they can do that?
Right. The purchase of the dollar program, that's an awesome program, but it comes with a lot of work. Don't think you're going to get a dollar house and ain't going to do nothing to it, because it's going to come, it needs a total, it needs a total rehab in face. It's a great deal. So for a nonprofit, actually, I'm working with a lady right now who is in the process of looking for nonprofit homes for a home for shelter women that have been abused. And so that's one avenue that we're looking at. If you get a good, solid, stable neighborhood, that's amazing. And again, that's only within the city limits. I don't know of any that are in the county limits that offer that. As far as houses for other nonprofit, HUD homes are very, very good properties to get, because they're lesser value and they don't necessarily come with all the headaches that you would possibly have with a dollar home. Most of the time, they're already in good shape. But the thing with HUD, you can't necessarily purchase them when they come on the market, because those are for first-time home buyers when they come on the market. But after so many days, they open it up for investors, and that's a great opportunity to get in on that then, especially if it's in a neighborhood that you desire.
That's awesome. And so for these nonprofits and businesses that are wanting to purchase, are there grants? I get that question all the time. I write grants, but I don't write grants for this particular field. I don't know anything about that. So are there grants or programs that would help with the rehab aspect of it?
Yeah, one thing about grants, there have never been more grant opportunities than there are now, even for starting a business. I tell people, look in your backyard first, look in your local community, because there are a ton of grants available for people to start businesses, rehab houses, even to buy houses, but you got to be diligent, and then you got to come correct with all your paperwork. If you have a business, make sure it is set up with the Secretary of State, that you're not coming in there, I'm just doing something starting off. You need to have legitimate business work set up with the Secretary of State, whether it's LLC, whether you're doing corporation, whatever you're doing, set it up right. And then that's how you qualify for a grant, because they're not going to give you a grant just coming in and walking in the door. They want to make sure that you have all your ducks in order. And if you have that in order, there are a ton available. Look on resource. If you go Google, grants within my local community or area, you'll find a lot of them pop up. The thing with grants, they end very quickly. So you got to get in right away where you fit in, because otherwise you'll miss it.
That is so helpful. Thank you, because that question came up a few times, so I really appreciate that. And you're right, we have to, as business owners, make sure that we're operating in good standing. And I'm big on that. I don't believe in just going out there and doing the work. You got to be official.
She sure does.
Thank you. Yes, I am. Yes.
She'll look you up too.
So yeah, I just want the best for our community, and this is why, because then we get people like you who really know what you're doing and you're about your business. And so when clients come to you, they know that they're going to get the best service and the most quality support. And so I just want to say thank you so much. I hope you'll stay on with us, but thank you so much for everything that you shared.
No problem. Thank you. I'm going to section out a little bit, because I do have to run to the ladies' room.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all. I'm interested in hearing with Christina. She's awesome as well, so I'm sure she's gonna have some great information, because I have a question I have to ask too. So yes.
All right. I love it. You. Christina, thank you for joining us. Christina Reynolds, I am so happy to have you here. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I would love to start first by just sharing a little bit about you, and then getting into any questions. Is that okay?
That sounds great. Can you hear me and see me okay?
Yes, ma'am. Perfect.
I am a lifelong resident of the Metro East, originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I currently still live in the Missouri area, but my office is physically located in Illinois. So actually that's where I'm at. So you caught me in the car because I stayed late working. So, just glad to be here, and was so excited to hear Nichelle talking about real estate. A lot of good information.
Awesome. We are happy to have you, and it's really exciting to have somebody who actually owns a State Farm agency. So not only are you an agent, you own an agency. And I know that, just reading about you, I know you love working with State Farm, because you shared that State Farm provides the most value-added products and services that you've ever seen from an insurance giant. And, being with this premier giant in the industry, State Farm authorized special agents like yourself are able to give our, community members a local cozy hometown experience. And at your State Farm agency, Christina Reynolds State Farm, you do that. You make your clients a part of your extended family. And that's something we don't often hear in this field, but they're part of your family. And, as you shared through, other interviews, and you share on your site, it's really common to see you in our community. And I know during this pandemic, you've done so much in, Missouri and Illinois as far as going above and beyond. It's not just about the insurance, it's about knowing that people have needs like food and needing other items, and you've been out there in the community providing that as well, because you really do view and value customers as, and not even just customers, but community members as family. I know that you said you provide free quotes for renter's insurance, home insurance, auto insurance, life insurance, and health insurance. And you offer this in Edwardsville, Alton, Godfrey, Collinsville, Glen Carbon, Fairview Heights, Belleville, Florissant, Hazelwood, Ferguson, St. Charles, Wentzville, and other cities. So like you are everywhere. And in your license to provide home refinance and home purchase products too.
So
you do it all.
yes, we do a lot. So absolutely, licensed in Missouri and Illinois, you know, actually licensed in Florida too. So hopefully that's going to come aboard here shortly. We got a lot of people in the Midwest who get second homes in Florida. So that'll be good. And we have partnerships with US Bank and Rocket Mortgage. So that's where we're able to add some financial products as well. So I'm just super excited, Monique, and I thank you and Delta Sigma Theta for this opportunity to share more about my passion with insurance and financial products. So it's great to be here.
Thank you. Well, I just think, I mean, you're definitely, you know, like you always say, you're not our average agent. And so that's what makes you really amazing. I think that some of what, you know, makes you different is what you've already, you know, what we discussed. You consider customers as extended family members. You're in the community giving back. You're not just in your office waiting for someone to come and purchase insurance. You're caring about that individual. And I really love that. I don't know if there is something specific you'd like to share about your background and what led you to start this agency, but if there is, I'd love to hear that.
Awesome. So I actually have kind of a varied background, but it started in financial services many years ago with me doing insurance and financial products, auto loans, home loans, mortgages, second mortgages, things of that nature. And then just fast forward when the opportunity came up to work with State Farm, you know, I jumped at it because it was a good wealth of experience that I could bring to the table, because I've worked in banking, I've worked in insurance and sales really all of my life. Additionally, I don't know, you've frozen, so can you still hear me? Uh-oh.
I can still hear you. I am getting back into Zoom. Zoom closed out on me, but I can still hear you.
I wasn't sure. I was making sure. So just a good opportunity for me to bring the wealth of things, the myriad of things that I have done through the years to State Farm. Additionally, I've always been involved in the community. I've always been passionate about helping the youth, helping families. That's been a big deal to me. You know, initially it started out, you know, I'm an Inroads alum, so it started out with doing community projects with Inroads, and then fast forward to doing things in college, and then doing things with my church, and it just segued into me just getting involved with State Farm, and State Farm became kind of a bigger platform because it is, you know, a corporate giant that, you know, embodies the local agent and allows us to, you know, kind of do what we want in the community. You know, of course, there's some limits to what we can do, but certainly it's been great for me. You know, we've had an opportunity to get out during COVID and help feed families. You know, when you have a family of 9, you know, come to get, you know, home cooked meals, you're like, oh my God, you know, it is such, like, you just don't realize how blessed you are until someone comes up and they're in need, and then you're being able to help them. So that's been really, really good, as well as sell insurance. So I always tell people I'm a servant first. I also like to share with people that I want to be a part of my family and be a part of yours, and then I just happen to be your agent, right? So it's worked really well with being in the community, with getting customers. I've also worked with my own church, Shalom, with doing things with health fairs and with the youth and other churches as well. So it's been a good experience.
That is awesome. Yeah, you do a lot. You're all around the community. And so I really thank you for that. And that's why it's so exciting to have you. I'm having crazy technical stuff going on, but that's just, what happens sometimes.
I can see it's freezing. So I don't know if it's freezing on my end. But certainly I have been sharing with folks, not your ordinary agent. A lot of agents do a myriad of things, but my big thing is to be in the community. I feel like, giving back is most important. And then, God will bless me with the rest of that, with building the business, because I am just in my second year of agency ownership, building a team and building customers. So it's been a very good experience for me.
Great. I'm still here. I'm gonna also join from my phone so we don't have this issue. But I wanted to ask you. You talk about something called legacy insurance, and you coined that term. I'd like you to share a little more about that.
So legacy insurance really is fueled by life insurance. It's really life insurance, right? But I like to use the phrase legacy insurance because that's what I'm wanting families to do, is to create that generational wealth using life insurance. There's a lot of ways in which funds can be passed on from family to family to generation in a pretty simple way with life insurance. So I coined it legacy insurance because the way that I'm looking at it is my generation, when we pass, then, my son's generation, when he passes, we're just going to keep passing and building that wealth through the years. So then it becomes part of our legacy. A lot of times, when we sit down with customers, we talk about, well, what bills do you have? What's your debt look like? And we talk about using insurance just to pay off debt, right? And then, replace income, if you will. But I'm looking at it, and that's why I say legacy, as a legacy that's going to last through the years, not just the next generation, not just the people who receive that inheritance, but the generations after that. I look at society as a whole, and, part of the division to me is because you have the haves and the have-nots. Well, what greater way for us to be part of the haves, if you will, if we start, utilizing legacy insurance to create generational wealth. I mean, there are other avenues to do it. There's tax ramifications with it all. But with life insurance, legacy insurance, the tax ramifications are a little bit simpler. Even if, in most cases, you don't have to pay taxes on life insurance that is given to you. And also in a lot of cases, the beneficiary, once they receive it, they can do with it what they want. So again, keep carrying it, in my mind, keep carrying that legacy so that, 10 years from now, God forbid we have another pandemic. God forbid we have this craziness going on with politics. And that's not to point to one side or another, because I'm about being inclusive of everyone. So I'm not trying to say this political party or that political party is better than anything like that. But what I'm saying is, if we're part of the working class, the middle class, and we use legacy insurance, legacy policy to create wealth, then 10 years from now, and 20 years from now, and 30 years from now, we can come to the table with more than just our vote. We can come with our finances.
I love that. We're coming with more than our vote. We're coming with our finances. That is very helpful. And I think it's just, I'm here, it's echoing everything that, Nichelle was sharing as well. And so I think that's really important and helpful. As far as just, we need money to really make sure that we're successful. I wanted to also ask you if there are some increased needs you're seeing in the midst of COVID.
Yes. I mean, I get calls quite often because I am in the community for people who are in need, financially, not just food, not just clothing, with paying bills, paying their mortgages, paying their rent, their car note, things of that nature, as part of, a give back, State Farm committed $2 billion to helping its customers, helping our customers, even new customers can benefit from it, in terms of savings on their auto insurance, between 10 and like 15% less than they're paying now. And that's around the country. So that's something that, State Farm is doing to mitigate that. For me, my part is getting in the community, providing meals where I can, providing supplies where I can. A lot of these things come from my own pocket. So it's not like State Farm is saying, here you go, go give this out. It doesn't work that way. I'm a local business that works with a awesome corporate giant. And they help with their part too. So I just see such a great need with people because, they're hurting financially, they're hurting emotionally. Sometimes it's not, hey, Christina, I need some food or I need some clothing. I need an ear. I need somebody to listen, especially with virtual school. Virtual school is driving me crazy. I talk to parents, moms and dads, and it's difficult. We're virtual schooling our 11-year-old, and it's,
it's a lot.
Challenging. It's a lot because you're trying to work full time as well. So.
Definitely. And, I really appreciate that. I think all of us can relate to that in some capacity, that it's just really impacting us across the board. I also want to ask you, though, since we're talking about insurance, insurance is multifaceted and it's just so much to even consider. And so what are some types of insurances that we should maybe have a better understanding of? Because I'm thinking of, there's the 529, short-term, long-term, disability, and even when it does come to life insurance, it's like term versus whole life. I don't know if we really can get into all of it right now, but is there just something like we should be considering, maybe like if we're in this situation, we want to look for this type of insurance versus the other?
So that is a pretty hefty question.
Yeah, I know.
So you really almost have to sit down with me individually, so that I can assess your needs. To just give a blanket fix would be irresponsible of me. I can throw out some generalities in terms of, you'll see people who have 30-year mortgages. They'll get like a life insurance policy that's 30 years to match. They had to pay off their house, right? You also see a lot of folks with younger kids getting whole life policies. That is a more permanent policy that will build some equity in it. One thing that I want to point out, I've been talking a lot about life insurance. I'm very passionate about it because of the legacy part of it. But the one thing I want to share with people, and Nichelle kind of touched on it, with credit, there is such a thing as insurance credit, an insurance credit score, if you will. And I don't think people realize that. So when they switch every 6 months, they're actually impacting their score if they don't stay with the same carrier at least 2 years.
I didn't know that. Oh.
Yes. If they, some other things, if they lapse, if they let their insurance lapse and then they pay it, it's like they're starting all over again. That impacts your insurance score. So that's just something to know about auto. Even with home, when we talk about claims, State Farm is actually owned by the consumers, and so when we look at, whether, the claims issue, because that's, looked at by all of the customers. So we have to look at, if you're talking about rates, you want better rates, it's almost like we're working together as a family to determine those rates. So, what I want people to understand is, it's not the companies just going, hey, I'm just going to drop you to be dropping you or whatever. No, they're really looking at the mitigating factors and seeing what's going to be best for, the consumers as a whole. So it's not just a bottom line of profit. So, but just auto, auto, home, you have an insurance credit score. be responsible about it.
That's powerful. I've never even heard of an insurance credit score. So I think that's something that a lot of people have probably just learned tonight. Thank you.
As an insurance credit score, it's not like, it's not like a hard credit score like you would have with a FICO score, but it does impact, what your rate's going to be if you're going to be approved with an insurance company. So I want to point that out. I want to point out that with life insurance, there's permanent policies and then there's temporary policies. So you've got to decide if you need a mix or if you need one over the other. As far as the 529 plans, I'm not as well versed in those. So I won't speak much on that, but that's certainly an opportunity for families to look at toward college, right?
Yeah.
Homeowners insurance, it's so important,
Yes,
to have that. And it's so important to keep your home up. The other thing that I hear a lot with claims, and I'm going to touch on that for just a second too, is, well, that my claim didn't get approved. Well, there's such things as normal wear and tear. So your homeowner's insurance policy is not something that's supposed to be used, like a warranty plan. It's not something where you use it for every repair, for things that are catastrophic. So, look at keeping your home up, all of your assets, keeping them, not necessarily updated, but, in good working condition. So let's see, I touched on home, I touched on auto, I touched on life, health insurance, short-term disability, short-term disability versus long-term disability. A lot of times, small business owners, 1099 folks, realtors, barbers, anybody that's in a small business, they probably should have a short-term disability policy. God forbid that they get sick, even with COVID, with what's going on, and they're out, for a long time. I talked to a customer today who was out 37 days. I think that's probably the longest, was in a coma part of that time, right? And so imagine now you've got a business, your family has no income coming in if you're the sole owner. Well, if it's due to medical reasons, your doctor can support that. And I got to say a covered reason, then that's something you can use that short-term disability for to replace that income. As far as long-term disability, that if you have other long-term disability policies, it has to be scheduled, meaning that if you have two different policies, you wouldn't reap the benefits from both. You may get part from one policy and part from another. Versus a short-term disability policy, you could really, get a lot from it. You could have technically, you could almost have multiple policies and benefit from it. So
that's really powerful. And it's helpful too, just, as we are, wanting to make sure that we're speaking to and educating our community members that are individuals, but we also are wanting to make sure that our business owners have that knowledge as well. And oftentimes we are stepping out there and maybe not fully protecting ourselves, even having insurance for our own businesses. And so just really having a wealth of knowledge of what we have access to and what we need to put in place so that we're not waiting until we're in a situation and it's too late is extremely essential. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. We often say that we're there on your worst day, when you need us the most, because you think about, oh man, I'm paying this insurance monthly, I'm not even using it. And you may go a couple years and never have a claim. But that one claim may be so big that you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I have, insurance. The other thing that I hear a lot is because I am a local agent, we have, support, but with being a local agent and being in touch with customers that they'll allow, and then being in touch with me and consider them my family, then you can be there for them too. So, I had a customer one year, she had a fire and she called me, went and got her, those types of things. Those are the types of things that, we add the personal touch to with being a local agent.
I love that. And I don't know anyone who wouldn't want to work with someone who says, you're part of my family and I'm going to be there when you need me most. You're not just a paycheck to me. You're someone that matters. And I love that about you. And I've definitely seen that to be true, you know, for myself personally and so many others in our community. I think one thing you touched on was homeowners insurance, and I had kind of a little bit more specific questions around that, just because I know that I looked at situations with ourselves in our home, as well as some other people in our neighborhood. And so two things that crossed my mind as examples are that really knowing what your homeowner's insurance covers. And so people have been getting new roofs, like we had to get a new roof, and didn't know that there was a difference between, there's some insurance that just pays for whatever whatever it's worth, and then there's some that pays like the total replacement value. And thankfully we had the right one, but I was like shocked. And another thing, and so I would like you definitely to speak to that and maybe anything else that makes you think of, but also there are like we have a finished basement, and we didn't realize when we first bought our home that the insurance company we were with at that time didn't include coverage for that. So when we have a bathroom down there, so if the pipes were to freeze, as they were doing for so many people, and explode, that wouldn't have been covered either. So what are some things that you think that new homeowners should be looking for when they're looking at that insurance plan?
So again, I have to speak in generalities because every insurance company's policy is going to be different, and even every claim is going to be different. But in general, when you're looking at getting a new homeowner's insurance policy, you know, you certainly want to look at the age of the roof, the furnace, the water heater, the air conditioning, the structure of it. You know, really, you know, get a a good inspection done. And I know Nichelle can help with that, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the first things that I would suggest that you do. Beyond that, when you're looking at insurance companies, is a replacement cost versus actual cash value. And there is a difference. So replacement cost, you're going to get more than you would with actual cash value. But that calculation is going to be different than every company. As far as the basement, which is really, really important to point out. If you have trees, you want to get sewer backup. You know, typically, if it's something related to the roots or something, you know, that's impacting the roots and your sewage system and it backs up, then that's something going to be covered under sewer backup. If it is pipes burst, that's not sewer backup, but it depends on why the pipes burst, right? So generally, if it's sudden and accidental, most insurance companies are going to cover that, right? But if it's something, you had a leaking pipe, or you know, you had something that was a maintenance issue and you didn't repair it, insurance is going to come in and say, no, we're not going to cover it. And you see customers get mad, you know, about things of that nature. They're like, well, but I have insurance, it's supposed to cover it. Well, you also are supposed to maintain your property, right? And so it's not a slam against any property owners, you know, anything of that nature. It's just that there are certain reasons why insurance is set up. It's really set up for emergency reasons. So, I mean, so just, I guess, to sum it up, make sure you talk with your realtor and get a good home inspection, and Nichelle can point folks in that direction. And then secondly, when you're interviewing that insurance agent, ask them, you know, what's their stance on actual cash value, you know, versus replacement cost. They'll probably get into depreciation with you. If you have a pool or a trampoline or things of that nature, talk with your insurance agent about what type of liability limits you should have, if you should have extra, if you've got a finished basement, or if you're storing things in a basement that's not finished. You want to look at sewer backup. You know, you want to make sure that you talk with your insurance agent about what's structurally sound down there that will be covered. You know, what bucket is it going to come out of? Is it going to come out of the sewer backup, or is it going to come out of the homeowner's bucket, the dwelling bucket? So, and again, every insurance company has different terms for different things, right? So, I don't think I've seen, when I've reviewed a policy, I don't think I've seen, too many things that were alike when you get into the endorsements. We also have, because we have an endorsement that's called Home Systems Protections, and it'll actually protect those major things, the air conditioning, the hot water heater, the furnace. And that's just a special endorsement on the homeowner's insurance. So I haven't seen that or heard about that with another company. But that's why I say every company is going to have their own special little endorsements to look for. So I hope that helps.
That makes sense. So that's awesome. I think that, as I'm looking at this, as I'm thinking about, I think I'm muted. As I'm thinking about this, I think that's why it's so hard for a lot of people to understand insurance, because it is so complex and it's so individualized, more so than we think it is. And so that's also the value of sitting down with an expert and actually having the conversation about all of the different options that exist and about your individual situation. And I know Nichelle spoke to that too. I mean, I respect companies that say, hey, we can't give you a one size fits all answer, because one size doesn't fit all. There is no one person that's, no two people that are the same. And so we have to look at your situation and determine what's best.
And we do, and that's why it becomes so important. Sorry, I got some noises going on here. That's why it becomes so important to have, a good agent like Nichelle, a good realtor like Nichelle. That's why it becomes so important to really interview your insurance agent and decide, do you want to become a part of that family? Everybody's not going to fit with one person or another, but you certainly want someone that will be thorough to the needs that you have. Yeah. So is there, there's no one fix that fix everything, right? I had a customer switch to me because he said he got tired of talking to an 800 number. Yeah. And not, and not slamming anybody with 800 numbers, but when you want to talk to somebody, I don't want to hit 15 prompts before I finally get to somebody, So that's, we have support that comes on after office hours. But a lot of times, I give folks my mobile number and say, if it's an emergency, give me a call. Well, I also speak with them. If they need prayer, give me a call too. So
I mean, and that's unique, and that's what's so special about you. And I think that's why you really are setting the gold standard for what it means to serve in this capacity. It's not just the status quo, and it's often honestly scary the way that things have operated, and so it kind of turns people off from the insurance, agencies, because they're scared. There is not that one person they're establishing a relationship with. And even if they do have that person, they're very limited in how committed they're going to be to them and to meeting their needs. And so that's essential. And that's why it's so exciting to have you, because you bring a very refreshing perspective. I also know that, during this season, State Farm's really been leading the game and supporting clients. And, there are ways that, like, during these unprecedented times, they've made a point to take some of the pressure off of clients and make life a little bit easier. And I think that's perhaps setting a model for other insurance companies that may or may not be doing, some similar things. I don't know if you wanted to speak to some of that.
So I appreciate you saying that about, me and State Farm and trying to be ahead of the game in the community. Passion of mine. And one of the things that I really liked about Farm in my, allowing to be a part of their community, right? State Farm has been great, very gracious with giving back credits to customers to mitigate their auto insurance bills. They've been great about, giving extension plans, not canceling folks. Super great with giving back $2 billion for the consumers to reap the benefits of lower interest rates. Lord, I'm getting into mortgages. Lower auto rates. And then as well as, we have the Drive Safe and Save program offering 10% initial discount that could go upwards to 50%. You know, you control that discount. So just coming up with so many creative ways to help consumers, help our customers.
Definitely.
Monique, I wanted to just ask Christina, you know, a lot of times I help renters as well. And if she can expound on why it's important to have rental insurance, because sometimes I feel like I'm pulling teeth to let them know you need renters insurance as well when you're buying, renting a house.
Absolutely, absolutely. Renters insurance, oh my gosh, our renters insurance is so affordable. And it offers you that, you know, just off the top, 100,000 in liability insurance.
Wow.
So what does that mean to you? What that means to you is if you burn down that house and that landlord decides to sue you, you've got $100,000 that can be tapped into to pay for that. Also, if your things are stolen, and you want to get those things replaced, if you don't have renters insurance in place, then you have to replace those out of pocket. Renters insurance is so important. Sewer backup is actually even offered with that. So if you live in a townhouse or a house with a basement, whether it's finished or not, you know, if your things get wet or destroyed, you know, those can be replaced with renters insurance. It is so important. I talk to students about it. I talk to renters all the time about it. People who are renting homes, who are renting apartments, who are renting condos, because it's very affordable. I think the most I've seen somebody pay, you know, with our company is about $25 a month. That was like $50,000 worth of coverage, contents covered. That means their things, their belongings. So I don't know how important, you know, your couch is to you, you know, your clothes, you know, spoons, forks, you know, washers and dryers. All of those things are covered under that personal property portion with renters insurance. So it is absolutely, Monique and Nichelle, it's an absolute necessity if you're going to rent. I mean, it's so affordable because, again, insurance is a protection against the unexpected. You know, if we could plan, you know, if we knew to plan for somebody, you know, robbing us or hitting us, then we would avoid it, right?
Right.
But we don't know to plan for it. So that's insurance, is that protection against the unexpected, right? So
I love that. I like that. I'm going to steal that analogy. I just want you to know that. Anybody planning on getting robbed? Because, you know, if so, then you don't need insurance, you know. I love it.
You don't think about it. I mean, I've, you know, had accidents and I'm like, doggone it, I'm so glad I had insurance, right?
Yeah.
You know, when the roof needed to be replaced, I was like, geez, I'm glad we have insurance, you know.
Yes.
Because even if people put money into savings, okay, they need that savings maybe if they're out of work for food, shelter, you know, not necessarily
paying the mortgage. Yeah, they got to pay the mortgage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in this pandemic, you know, we have seen unprecedented amounts of unemployment. You know, those folks, rainy day fund, they don't want to use it to fix their roof. If a storm hits, you know, they're going to look to their insurance. You know, those are the folks that are calling me saying, Christina, what coverage do I have? The storm just took out my roof, or it took out my siding, or it took out my gutters, you know, or that little old lady who bumped the curb and then hit somebody else. She's going, oh my God, what coverage do I have? Right.
Yeah.
You know, and the really cool part about our office is that we have customers come in just because they want to talk. And so we've tried to create that environment in our office. And hey, if you want to just come in, you know, talk and sit a while, they do that too. We have a customer that actually brings us treats.
Oh. Well, that's a testament to, your agency and your staff, and how much you're pouring into the community that they want to pour back into. And I think there's been, I know we're over time, but I feel like there's just been so much synergy between what you have shared and what Nichelle has shared. And it shows how the two really go together. They work hand in hand, and it's so important. I wanted to, first of all, this is just to mention this because it's unique, that you also speak Spanish. And so I just want people to know that. Or well, your agency, right?
My team is bilingual.
Your team is bilingual. Okay, I got to get that right. But
a
that's
little bit of Spanish, but I'm not as fluent as I could.
I minored in it in college, and I can't tell you anything. So, but no,
I'm learning it though.
but that's amazing though. And that's
Como estás, Dad? Yeah, we know the basics.
muy bien, muy bien.
Yes.
Um,
Dinero. Yeah, we know all the basics.
yes,
Right. I mean, I've certainly have learned some insurance terminology with Spanish, and the Spanish speaking community is so welcoming. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's just an awesome to have the that amount of energy with our customers that come in, and so they're excited to see us.
Yeah, and that
So
makes your agency unique. And so that's why I wanted to mention that, because, being so welcoming to many, other members of our community that also deserve exactly the same support that anybody is getting, and so you're making sure that door is open and available. And so kudos to your team. I think that's phenomenal. I love that. I think I have one more question. I don't know if this is something you offer, but I didn't know if you offer insurance for business owners or nonprofits. Is that something that falls under State Farm, or is that something separate?
no, we offer business insurance and insurance for nonprofits, not for profits. We offer all workers' comp, everything that a business would need. We offer that group policies as well. So, with State Farm, I have so many different things that I can offer that usually when I sit down with someone, I discuss, what are their plans for the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So I really try and build that relationship with them so that I can anticipate what they may need next, or they can tell me what they may need next. So we really try hard not to make it transactional where you're like, hey, I need auto insurance, I need home insurance. And then we just get off the phone or we stop meeting. What we try and do is, get a sense of you, your family, your kids, your mom, your dad, your aunts and uncle, who's in your community, right? So, and that gives me a good idea of if you need an auto insurance policy and a business policy, if you need short-term disability, it gives me a good base to be able to help you with your current insurance needs as well as your future needs. So.
I love that. And I think, this is just so important because people have kind of put State Farm in a box, because that we do hear about auto and home and maybe life, but there's so much more. And so that's why I really wanted to make sure that we address that, because you offer pretty much everything. And you do. And that's phenomenal. And I think opening the eyes of our community to those options is really helpful. And so when business owners are going and looking for insurance, they're going to know this is your agency is one they can come to get that support. And I did have one more thing. You mentioned to me a while ago that there's also some support that you offer to nonprofits occasionally that you're able to do.
So once a year, State Farm has a $25,000 grant that they give out to 40 not-for-profits, right? And it essentially, you have to do a submission. It's usually like June or July. It was a little bit later this year. And you do a submission and they take the first 2,000 folks and then they bring those folks down to 200, and then the community votes on who will win. And so I supported an awesome organization this year. We Rise Up for Kids. And so that was so exciting. And I got really involved. For me, it was great, and so I'm praying for the win, on November 4th. And I put my money behind stuff. So, I boosted those posts. I did what's necessary because, our kids are definitely our future. We Rise Up for Kids is an awesome organization. So, but State Farm does that every year around the country. Literally, you can vote for the organization, even if you're in Texas, any place in the country, you know, you could vote for We Rise Up for Kids or any of the organizations. And they are chosen, you know, by the people. I mean, how they go from the 2,000 down to the 200, I don't know, all by the grace of God, right?
Right.
Once down to the 200, then there's a vote, you know. So it's the American Idol of not-for-profits. Um,
I love it. I love that. And that's just another unique offering. And so I wanted to make sure I shared that. And I
yes,
just,
yes.
yes, thank you so much for everything that you're doing and have done. And Michelle, thank you so much. I just appreciate the wealth of knowledge you guys have shared with us. And thank you to everybody for joining us. It's so sad that this is the last part of this series, but it's been an honor to bring in just business owners who are really making an impact and who really have a heart for our community. And it's been an honor to be able to just serve and bring this information to so many people. And so I don't know, Sora Moore, I don't know if you want to close this out. Of course, everyone, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to our Economic Development Committee, and we will make sure that you have, I will put the email in the comment section for you, and we'll make sure that we get any of those questions answered as well. But Sora Moore, would you like to close us out?
Can I say one other
Sure.
quick thing?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Sure.
Just real quick, is I also have a really strong Vietnamese component in my office. And so I have a Vietnamese interpreter as well if needed. So I want to mention that.
That is so important. Thank you for mentioning that. I mean, that's phenomenal. I don't think I've ever met an agent, you know, been to an agency that has the wealth of just opportunities available for our community, so that we feel welcomed and know that we can come in, whatever our situation, we can come in and get served.
I'm certainly about being inclusive of everyone. So whatever way you need help. I actually had someone apply that was a sign language interpreter. And I'm like, okay, you know, if there's a need, we would certainly welcome that. So I try to
Wow.
person, you know, no matter what your situation is. So but
That
thank you
is
for the
awesome.
opportunity again to be here today. Thanks, Monique.
Thank you for being here. Sora Moore.
Thank you both, Michelle and Christina. Your knowledge is just phenomenal that you have. And I've just, through this whole series, I've questioned everything I've ever done in my life around finances, real estate, insurance, because I'm like, I need to go get with these wonderful, amazing women right here and make sure I know what I'm doing. So thank you all so much for sharing your knowledge. Monique Norfolk, Sora Norfolk, thank you so much for putting this together. It's been phenomenal. I know I'm just watching people ask questions. I know it's been hugely helpful for our community. So thank you all so very much for sharing your wealth of information. And Sora Norfolk, thank you for putting this together. On behalf of our president, Sora Jonice Baker, I just want to thank all of you all for joining us today and over this series in October, and be looking out for the next thing to come up, because I am certain that it will be just as great and awesome and with our community. So thank you all very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you. I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Thank you.